6 years ago, I found myself working at Walmart while I was attending college. My college schedule was far from ideal, with classes scattered throughout the day, making it incredibly challenging to find a job with hours that would accommodate my studies. Fortunately, the Walmart near my campus offered a lifeline by remaining open 24 hours and having a vacancy for an overnight cashier position. Overnight shifts provided the perfect solution to my scheduling predicament, allowing me to earn while not missing any classes. I went through the interview process and secured the job. Initially, everything went as expected. Surprisingly, the overnight shifts proved to be quite busy, but the constant flow of customers made the time pass swiftly. Most nights, I found myself as the sole cashier, with limited interaction with my coworkers, save for the occasional warehouse employee passing through. After a few months on the job, a peculiar pattern began to emerge. Familiar faces among our late-night customers, with one man, in particular, who consistently appeared around 2 a.m. This enigmatic customer had a penchant for purchasing an eclectic assortment of items, ranging from clothing and food to toys and tools. What struck me as odd was his solitary nature. He shopped alone and rarely engaged in conversation, merely checking out and departing without uttering a word. With ample time for contemplation during those solitary overnight shifts, my mind would often wander, pondering the motives behind his peculiar shopping habits. Then, on one fateful night, something entirely unexpected transpired. At the usual 2 a.m. visit, this mysterious individual initiated a conversation with me, inquiring about my night and weekend plans. This abrupt shift in behavior caught me off guard, as he had never displayed any inclination for small talk before. Despite his unkempt appearance, with greasy hair, his eyes were strangely alert. After concluding his purchase, he thanked me and left, leaving me bewildered by the sudden change in demeanor. The rest of the night passed at a glacial pace, and when my shift ended at 6 a.m., I headed to my car in the nearly empty parking lot as the first rays of sunlight graced the horizon. Approaching my vehicle, I noticed another car parked next to mine, its engine running. To my astonishment, it was the very same man who had visited at 2 a.m., a mere 4 hours ago. His smile seemed even more worn out than before. I greeted him and tried to act nonchalant as I moved around to the driver's side door. However, to my shock, he followed me, reaching out to grab my arm firmly. His friendly demeanor had vanished, replaced by a menacing expression. I resisted, struggling and raising my voice to attract attention. I wouldn't allow him to pull me more than a few feet before I managed to push him away. Swiftly, I retreated into my car, driving off while keeping a vigilant eye on my rearview mirror, ensuring he didn't pursue me. Though I didn't spot him following, I opted not to return home immediately. Instead, I parked at a nearby McDonald's and dialed the police. Subsequently, the authorities interviewed me and documented the case. However, despite having surveillance footage from the store and parking lot, weeks passed, and the man's identity remained elusive. Although I continued working at Walmart, the lingering unease stayed with me, fostering a constant vigilance and a hope that the man would eventually be apprehended to prevent any potential harm to others. 2 years ago, I embarked on an unexpected journey at Walmart, a place I hadn't initially considered due to its less-than-stellar reputation. However, circumstances led me to take the job, as it offered overnight shifts, allowing me to evade the chaos of dealing with unruly customers and focus solely on stocking shelves during the store's closed hours. My journey at Walmart commenced with training sessions conducted by the manager during the first few days. As I gradually grew comfortable with my responsibilities, I joined my fellow workers in tackling the vast store. Our routine was simple but demanding, involving pushing long carts laden with boxes, stocking the merchandise on shelves in various aisles, and striving to complete as much as possible before our shift ended. One Monday night, I arrived at the store promptly at 11 p.m., ready to commence my shift. My interactions with coworkers remained limited, as I was inherently a reserved person, struggling to initiate conversations, especially since I was still relatively new. While navigating through the labyrinthine store to locate a specific item, a stranger approached me from behind, tapping me on the shoulder. Startled, I turned to see a man inquiring about the restroom's location. I provided directions, assuming he was another new employee, given the recent hiring spree. Later that night, the same man approached me once more, his demeanor noticeably nervous. He stuttered as he requested assistance. Believing he had made a mistake and was reluctant to report it to the manager for fear of reprisal, I agreed to help, thinking it was a harmless favor to a fellow employee. Little did I know that this seemingly innocuous request would soon spiral into a horrifying ordeal. As we proceeded together, the man suddenly halted at the store's front service desk. He declared, "It's right here, if you could just reach it for me," gesturing toward the other side of the counter. Obliging, I leaned over the counter, attempting to locate what he needed. However, my attempt at cooperation took a sinister turn as I felt a cold, hard object pressed against my back. Panic washed over me as I realized the man was holding a weapon, presumably a gun. He grabbed me aggressively, instructing me to remain silent. The tension in the air was palpable as I comprehended the gravity of the situation. With fear coursing through my veins, he demanded that I open the cash register situated on the front desk. I pleaded with him, explaining that I was just an overnight stalker and lacked access to such resources. My pleas fell on deaf ears as he grew increasingly aggressive with each repeated demand, escalating the situation to a terrifying level. A fellow employee unwittingly entered our aisle, bearing witness to this harrowing ordeal. The man's desperation intensified as he shouted at the employee, ordering them to open the register. Sensing an opportunity, I proposed calling the manager to resolve the situation, desperately hoping to prevent any further escalation. The man reluctantly agreed to my proposal, and I reached for the store's phone to dial the manager's extension. However, in a sudden turn of events, the other employee made a daring escape, catching the assailant off guard. In his haste, the attacker shoved me against the counter, causing me to gasp for breath. Seizing this momentary opening, I sprinted towards my car, which was thankfully nearby. The man made no attempt to pursue me further, allowing me to escape the immediate danger. As I drove away, I could only hope that my actions had averted a more tragic outcome. Summoning every ounce of courage, I parked at a nearby McDonald's and dialed 911, reporting the incident to the police. They promptly arrived, conducting an investigation that ultimately led to the identification and subsequent arrest of the assailant. It was discovered that the weapon used was a fake gun, painted entirely black to mimic a genuine firearm. Despite the trauma I endured that night, I continued my employment at Walmart. Although I grew closer to some of my coworkers, a lingering sense of unease remained. Balancing the responsibilities of being a single father and juggling two jobs was a daily challenge. Life became somewhat more manageable as my eldest son grew old enough to look after my youngest child during my work shifts. However, my relentless work schedule often left me with little time for anything else. One evening, after completing my second shift and returning home around 10 p.m., I realized that I had neglected to stock up on groceries for my kids. With another full day of work looming on the horizon, I knew I had no choice but to make a quick trip to the only store still open in the vicinity, Walmart. It was with a heavy heart that I ventured to Walmart, fully aware that I risked becoming the stereotypical last-minute shopper. My objective was clear: grab essential food items and return home as swiftly as possible. Navigating through the vast grocery section, I scoured the frozen food aisle in search of quick and convenient meals to sustain my children while I was away. As I meticulously selected frozen meals, a disconcerting feeling began to settle over me. I couldn't help but notice a peculiar man who seemed to be closely observing my every move. Our gazes locked repeatedly, but each time our eyes met, he swiftly averted his, feigning innocence and attempting to conceal his unsettling interest in me. An ominous sense of discomfort washed over me, but I dismissed it as my own paranoia, attributing it to the late hour and the desolate surroundings. In an effort to shake off the creeping unease, I pressed on with my shopping, moving from aisle to aisle in hopes of eluding the unnerving stranger. Nevertheless, he persisted, shadowing my every step. Growing increasingly apprehensive, I decided to confront the situation head-on, approaching him to inquire if he needed assistance, assuming he was a lost customer seeking help locating a particular item. To my surprise, he quickly retreated, and I took it as a victory, assuming my offer had dissuaded him from his intrusive behavior. Relieved, I proceeded to the self-checkout lane, remaining vigilant and watchful of my surroundings. prepared for any unexpected encounters. Exiting the store, I was confronted with a shocking sight. My car had been vandalized, adorned with scratches, dents, and shattered windows. A sinking feeling of dread enveloped me as I rushed to assess the extent of the damage. The situation escalated further when two menacing figures, their body language oozing aggression, closed in on me. One of them brandished a menacing metal pipe. In a state of panic, I fumbled to unlock my car, trembling as I desperately attempted to escape the escalating danger. Miraculously, I managed to get inside and lock the doors just in the nick of time. The two men continued to approach, relentlessly battering my vehicle with their improvised weapon, leaving me in a state of utter terror. Realizing that they were attempting to intimidate me into opening the car, I decided to take control of the situation. Summoning every ounce of courage, I revved the engine and sped away from the menacing assailants, narrowly evading the impending threat. In my rear-view mirror, I watched as the two men ceased their pursuit and returned to their own vehicle. I drove to a nearby parking lot, shaken and horrified, before dialing 911 for assistance. The police arrived swiftly, documenting the incident and ensuring my safety. Regrettably, at that moment, there was little they could do about the vandals. A month later, I received news that these same assailants had targeted another individual at a different Walmart location, ultimately leading to their apprehension. Astonishingly, one of them was the same man who had been watching me earlier in the store. Their motives remained elusive, but I found solace in the knowledge that they were no longer free to inflict harm upon others. Hey guys, Dark Tales Library here. I just wanted to say a big thank you for making it to the end of the video. It means a lot. And if you liked it, please consider subscribing. It helps out more than you know and also tells me what you guys like and want to see more of. Thanks again.